Hi. Today I want to talk about the divided nature of the United States today. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to get into some ranting and some offshoots because there's just so much stuff attached to everything that we're missing a lot of what's going on and not paying attention. And I think what bothers me the most about this whole situation is if I point something out to basically either side of this aisle and say you're wrong because of this or you're not right because of this, I'm automatically assumed to be on the other side of that aisle. I don't like that. I especially don't like when you got these far lefties going nuts saying that I'm ready to burn a building down because I supported Trump and all I did was support the President of the United States. Even more upsetting is watching these guys burn down like Portland, and that's completely acceptable. But I want that's all part of this whole divide thing. Is we're not really listening to both sides of this argument, and I know a lot of people think they are and they could recite the arguments. But I got a feeling the average person couldn't. Even the people that supported the right wing side of this argument really have no idea what the actual argument was. They were just all caught up in the pandemonium, just like your average Democrat voter. Not picking on your Democrat voter, but typically speaking, they go in there with love in their heart, basically, or hate, depending on how it goes. But they vote on emotion, and they tend to vote D down the line, and couldn't tell you a single thing about either candidate. Which, by the way, I'm not saying Republicans don't do that, because I think it was in Arizona, a trans satanic something woman, I guess, became sheriff by running on the Republican ticket. Oh, yeah, that's right, Democratic Socialist. Ran on the Republican ticket, and no one even bothered to look. They just voted R. So, I mean, I'm not, saying that one party doesn't do it and the other one does. I'm just saying the left tends to rely on low information voters more. And by that, I mean they'll appeal to emotion versus what'll happen in 10 years if we pass this law right now. And a prime example of that would be when they said you only need a simple majority in the Senate to get a Supreme Court justice in under Obama, trying to sneak one in last minute. And they didn't even get their vote in, but then Trump managed to get, was it 3 justices in under the regulations that the opposing party put into place. And I think what the most frustrating thing about this is you'll bring this stuff up in advance, like as it's happening, you'll say, this is going to backfire, because you have to remember the other guys are going to have it sooner or later. And you're giving him this crazy tool right now. But it's looked at like, oh, that won't happen. And then it does, and it's treason. I mean, look what happened with Trump's Supreme Court picks. Whether or not you liked them, there's a process, and the process has to be followed. And we had a whole bunch of people storm the Senate and get arrested wearing handsmaid tail stuff. And it was seen as righteous indignation at the time. And their evidence was a single person who couldn't come up with any evidence, any corroborating stories, any witnesses, anything. 40 years later, or whatever. Well, but what just happened with this whole Capitol building thing, and don't get me wrong, I'm not condoning that either. I'm just pointing out that it was acceptable when these guys did it. We're calling to literally execute these people for treason. For taking over the Capitol building. Well, how come it was okay when these other guys did it in the Senate to disrupt a certification process? It wasn't. And it wasn't okay when these nutso right-wingers went in there dressed up like Buffalo Bill from, what is that? It puts the lotion in the basket or it gets the hose again. Yeah, anyway. That didn't help that argument either. And seizing buildings like that, this isn't 1850. Simply seizing and having control over a government building does not make you control the government anymore. So, I mean, I have to say it 100 times because this will be taken out of context. I do not condone what happened, but I also say that when the left wing did the same exact thing a couple of years ago, I was saying the same thing, and I was called a terrible person. Because apparently, if you're upset enough, it's okay to take over a government building. According to mainstream media, to include MSN.com, CNN, and a whole bunch of them out there. And now they're saying that they're ready to put Trump in prison for, inciting these riots by saying, go to a protest, it'll be wild. All right, so because something violent happened and he suggested people go there, he should be arrested. If that's the case, then no one will ever organize a protest again, because if anyone gets violent, you're the one going to prison. And not to mention, Alyssa Milano was involved with the whole Handmaid's Tale thing. She was all over Facebook, Twitter, everywhere else, telling people to do exactly this, and then it happened. There's Nancy Pelosi saying go out there and saying that she's surprised there's not more rioting, and you got Maxine Waters saying get in people's faces and tell them they're not welcome and scare them out of town. And again, I'm not saying any of this is okay. I'm saying it's all wrong. But as long as you're saying my side is right because I agree with what they want to get done, you are the problem. You're ignoring what these other guys' problem is. Now, I can tell you what BLM's problem is. That's pretty straightforward, honestly. I can tell you what Antifa's problem is, and I can actually recite you their, little slogans in their manifesto. Here's the difference between myself and a lot of other people that like to have an opinion. I actually listen to what the other side has to say. I may disagree with it, but here's the thing. You can't make a valid argument against an argument you didn't listen to. A lot of people seem to think what's going on right now, this whole Trump thing, is because they want Trump to stay in office. And yes, that's a big piece of it. Yes, don't get me wrong. But a lot of it is these guys have been saying, I need to go to work. My family's starving to death. I've lost my entire net worth. I'm going bankrupt, and I'm getting ready to start robbing people. And then you have other folks telling them to shut up and go back home. Your opinion doesn't matter. A prime example is I brought up recently to a family member how they're not being listened to. And they said, well, there were over 90 court cases where Trump was shot down. And I pointed out right back, actually, there was like 3. The other 87 were dismissed, never made it into the courtroom. They were refused to be listened to. And there's actually a video with audio out there. Actually, I think it's just audio out there of the Supreme Court justices discussing in advance one of these things, the most recent big one. And they were flipping out saying this will cause riots in the streets if we rule either way on this. And that's the problem, is the argument's not even being listened to. You say there's not overwhelming evidence. You're right, there's not. There's not overwhelming evidence of some kind of fraud. And I'm not saying there is, and I'm honestly, there's like a 99.99% chance that Biden's going to be getting inaugurated on the 20th. And the only reason why I give Trump the 0.001 is because you never know what's going to happen until it actually happens. I mean, for all we know, Biden will be hit by lightning tomorrow, and, the Archangel Michael will come down and dub Trump president. For all we know, I'm just saying you never know what happens until it happens. It's just getting incredibly frustrating. Listen to people dismiss arguments out of hand as if they know what the argument is, but their argument against it is actually a straw man argument. And straw man arguments are super frustrating because basically you make up an argument for the other guy and then defeat it. Well, it's easy to knock down an argument you made that was supposed to be weak. Because the big argument I'm actually hearing from the actual people versus from Twitter is we're being ignored, we're dying, we need help. And instead of doing anything to help anyone, we keep locking down further. And then this pitiful joke of a stimulus package came out with $600. Okay, I'm certain everyone's already aware that we sent more money overseas than we did to our own people with the stimulus package, under the whole omnibus thing. And I understand the omnibus and the stimulus package are not necessarily the same thing, but they're stuck together so that you can't possibly read through it in advance. AOC actually made a big deal saying it's impossible to read this in advance, and then she voted yes anyway. But right now they're getting ready to impeach Trump again. He's got 2 weeks left in office. 2 weeks. What could you possibly gain us? You won't even have your argument ready in 2 weeks, let alone have him impeached. This is just a giant waste of taxpayer money. This could have gone into the stimulus to help you and I. Instead, it's propaganda campaign. They're trying to make Orange Man bad. And the problem is, Orange Man bad is an opinion. Now, I personally might think Orange Man, not so good, but he's not that bad. There's been a lot of BS put out attached to him. This is the most pissed me off part is someone will say he's bad, and you say, okay, well, give me an example. And they say he's racist. It's like, okay, give me an example. And they say literally everything he says. Cool, then it should be wicked easy to show me something then. Like, if it's literally everything he says, you should go click, there it is. But they just get frustrated and they don't respond to me like I'm some kind of idiot. It's like, oh, well, you're not paying attention. It's like, no, I am. Now show me the racist thing. Because it's usually something wicked stupid, and then they draw all sorts of conclusions. This and this, and, medium income here, and this and that. Therefore, he hates Mexicans. Because he had a taco bowl on, Cinco de Mayo or whatever. I could show you more videos of Oprah Winfrey asking Donald Trump to run for president than you could show me Donald Trump saying racist things. I actually can. I could show you videos of Al Sharpton thanking Donald Trump for being so great to the black community. And that's my big issue is this one side of the argument, the guys that are pissed off enough to storm the Capitol building, they're upset that they're being completely ignored while they're dying. And this is the same exact argument the BLM folks made. But look what happened to that. We defunded the police almost nationwide. Which is interesting. Think about this. Defund the police and then be surprised when violent crime rises nationwide and the Capitol building gets breached. I wonder if there's a correlation there. I can go on for another hour on this, and I probably will on a channel with a friend of mine. But you have to actually listen to what these folks have to say versus assuming you know their argument, because by banning them on Twitter and Facebook does not make them go away. You can do that on your own so you don't have to see what they have to say by going click, click, click. By banning them outright, what you're doing is you're putting them into a separate platform where they're communicating with each other in an echo chamber. And that leaves you in an echo chamber. Problem is, now you have no idea what those guys are saying. You have no idea what's going on. Right now, when everyone's on the same platforms, at least you can hear what they have to say and make an argument against it, versus letting these people brew underground pissed off without you being able to say, hey, you're wrong and here's why. By banning them, you're not allowed to tell them that they're wrong anymore. Look up, what's his name there? Alex Jones is a prime example. Crazy, crazy man. He's probably not okay in the head. He's always talking about aliens coming and, putting footprints in his peanut butter in the middle of the night. He got kicked off of Facebook and YouTube and Twitter for not true things when he was talking about aliens and stuff. And it just made me scratch my head. Like, isn't Ancient Aliens still on the History Channel? And that's like a really cool thing. And since when has being a crazy asshole been a bannable offense? And yes, you're right. Private platform, private platform, private platform. You sound like a damn Republican now. You sound, not just that, you sound like a conservative Republican saying that the private companies are exempt from the laws of the government. When did this party flip happen? Why are the Democrats giving these independent companies all this authority? Because, heads up, the pendulum always swings. And if it's all the way over here right now, it's going to hit your side of that aisle pretty soon. And when it does, you're going to be pissed off again, just like what happened with the Supreme Court justices. It was a good idea when they did it because it was their guy. I should have started with this. I could have summed this up in like a sentence. The argument, the ends justify the means, is wrong every single time. That means as long as what I want done is what happens, then we can do whatever we need to get it done, even if it's executing people. My argument is the means always justify the ends. It's the process, the system that's the same every time. So no matter if you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, whatever, you go through the same process. Versus White folks get to go. I got a brown paper bag we're going to put against your forearm and compare it. That's wrong. That's an argument of the ends justify the means, because you got what you wanted in the end versus a standardized test, for example. Like I said, I can go another 6 hours talking about this. It just makes me want to break my hand punching the wall, hearing people argue out of both sides of their mouth. And it was okay when their guys did it, but people should be executed for treason when the other guys do it. You were wrong before, and the sheer fact that you're not, at least if you're going to take the same side of the argument, I mean, at least if you're going to say that we did it when Kavanaugh was being put into the Supreme Court, it's okay that they're doing it for this. But you, for whatever reason, and there's actually been a couple of major institutes that have put that on Twitter saying, well, it was okay because it was us doing it, and, the fascists weren't. Fascists are literally the ones who think it's okay to do that. Just like they keep calling Trump an authoritarian. I really have no opinion on that because I haven't seen an authoritarian in the United States in my life. But the guy who says, go to work and do what you want to do, versus the guy who says, you have to wear a mask, you can't leave your home, you can't do this, you have to do it this way, that's the definition of authoritarianism. And, I'm not trying to change the outcome, I'm not trying to change any of this stuff. I just want to point this stuff out. So at least maybe we can have a conversation versus calling each other commies or Nazis. You have to look at it this way. The right wing and the left wing are both wings on the same plane crash. Good luck.